Hello everybody, good evening and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United transfer news as yet another player enters the fray as a player that Manchester United are in talks with and looking to put a bid in for. We know this week is about Frenkie de Jong, or we hope it's about Frenkie de Jong. We also know that there is some debate about what the fee will be for Frenkie de Jong, which we will talk about in a moment. Remember as well, Gary Neville's reminded us on Twitter quite rightly today that on Friday the Glazers will be taking £11 million out of the club as well. £11 million out of the club by these owners. We are at the lowest point we've ever been under these owners, and yet they still think it's a good time to take £11 million out of the club. To which I would say, unless they're looking to spend £200 million on this club in summer one for Ten Hag, how can you justify taking one penny? Because if we've only got £120 million to spend, that £11 million is £130 million to spend. How can you justify taking £1 out of Manchester United this summer transfer window when the Glazers have created this mess? Whether they've spent or they haven't, they've spent badly if they have. It's ridiculous. It really is. But the mic is off again, is it? I don't know why it is. I've literally just tested it, so I'm getting a bit tired. We're just struggling with trouble all the time, aren't we? We're struggling all the time with. I literally checked it before we went live. So let's have a look. You're muted, Mark. I'm definitely not muted. Microphone bridge. Is it worth starting the stream again, or are you actually okay with me carrying on? Mic is fine. It's good. Okay, not a problem. My girlfriend said she's leaving me. Kevin, thank you very much for ruining the start of the show. Brilliant. Really interested in your girlfriend leaving you, mate. She's not leaving you, is it? You're trying to be funny at the start of a United Stand stream when I've just been talking about the Glazers. Idiot, Kevin. He said, she's leaving me if Frenkie de Jong isn't a United player by the end of the week. Do you think I'm safe? I think she's going to leave you, Kevin. I really do. No, look, let's get on with the show. So, I was joking with Kevin, and I'm sure Kevin's joking about his wife leaving him. If she's going to leave you because Frenkie de Jong's not a Manchester United player, you shouldn't. What's happened for thicker for poorer, or for richer for poorer? Through fat and thin, or was it? I can't remember I can't remember what it was all about. Anyway, let's get back on track. We were very serious about the Glazers there, but let's talk about these two bids that Manchester United are potentially going to be putting in. And I'll put it up just so you know what this is all about. So this is coming in from Plettigol, who is a good German outlet, source. It's a person, it's not a website. Manchester United want David RAUM from Hoffenheim. Talks have taken place, are ongoing and good, but still a long way to go. His fee will probably be around 30 to 35 million euros, and it's said that this transfer can happen. Now, this is the guy, Plettigol, who said 99% chance that Nkunku is staying at Leipzig. He's been right on quite a few things, so I think this is really interesting. I will say, absolutely hand on heart straight away, I'm very confused about Manchester United and what we're actually doing at the moment, and answers on a postcard to that one. I've got absolutely no idea what we're doing. We're now looking at a left back, midfielders, wingers, centre-backs, forwards, right-backs, Ericsson, and yet we're being told that the budget probably won't be that big. So, look, on David RAUM, you've just read it there. Apparently Manchester United are in talks. There's discussion about a bid going in. We're after Lissandro this morning, RAUM this afternoon, Vitina last week. Some of this will be complete and utter bollocks, but what I would say about RAUM, and if you don't know much about him, welcome to the club. I know a bit about him. There's not many players most of us don't know a little bit about. I'm not going to pretend I know loads about him, and I'm not going to suddenly start telling you he's the best left back in the world. I believe he's 24. I believe his contract is till 2026, so I'll take Plettigol's advice there that we can get him for about 35 million euro, which is obviously going to be about 30 million quid. But I think he's broken records in the Bundesliga for assists. So effectively, he's an attacking left back. Now, if you know anything about the way Ajax played, their fullbacks get forwards. So maybe this is what we're looking at. I mean, I will be honest and say this from the off. Welcome to the Members Club, Lewis. Thank you very much for joining. I will say this from the off. If we need fullbacks, and we do, it wouldn't be the left side I would be looking at. And one of the things I want to talk about tonight is there's some updates from Sky, which I just don't understand, talking about players wanting a second chance at the club, and we'll go through some of those players. And I think it was Jonathan Schrager saying today that Brandon Williams is available if a good offer comes in, but they'd like him to stay and fight for his place. It doesn't even make any sense. So he's available, but they want him to stay, and yet Erik ten Hag's not seen him train once. How can we know we want him to stay and make him be available as well? And it's this mixed up feeling that I think is just confusing everybody, because if Brandon Williams stays, he's a left back, Telles is a left back, and Luke Shaw's a left back. If we're buying a full back, it should be right back. I'm not convinced about Delo, and I think we all agree that Wan-Bissaka's not going to make it. But Luke Shaw's probably our best left back, but we're going to spend 30 million on another left back. It's a bit all over the place, if I'm absolutely honest. I don't really understand, and I'd have to file David RAUM under it's not going to happen for two reasons. One, it's a lot of money to spend on a left back when we've got Luke Shaw already, and I mean 30 million would be to bench Luke Shaw, wouldn't it? Let's be honest. That seems odd when right back's our weaker position. And let's not forget, we really like Malacia from Feyenoord, who'd be cheaper. So it doesn't make sense to me. I'm getting a little bit, I'm not getting angry or frustrated. We're being told to be patient and we will get there in the end. And, you know, I'm trying to stay on that track of the club will get there in the end this summer, and let's be patient. But I've got to say I am getting more and more confused. And of course you've got to open your eyes up to the fact that the media will lie, journalists will lie, agents will lie or be misfed information because these players are trying to get moves elsewhere. But it doesn't make sense to me that we're in for Lisandro Martinez when it was always going to be Pau Torres and Timber. And it doesn't make sense to me that now we're looking at David RAUM when we were looking at Malacia. So, hi Mark, you are the legend. Just wish United were as good at business as you at one-liners and analogies. Keep up the great work, says Aidza. Thank you very much, Aidza, who's been a member for 24 months. Give him a shout out. Well done. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. So yeah, look, David RAUM, interesting. Chris says you're lying too, mate. I'm not. Chris, I know. We get some bitter bastards in our fan community that. Think because we talk about the news that we're somehow responsible for the news and we're somehow responsible for United not playing play. I mean, I get people replying to me saying, but we've not put a bid in, Mark. Oh, it's the same old shit. And I'm like, I've literally just told you where this story's come from. We are a fan channel. We talk about the news. If you don't like transfer news, when the season ends at the end of May, F off until August. No, but some of us like to talk about it, and we've been doing it for 8 years, and we love it. We love to talk about the transfer news, and if you don't, stop being miserable, go and watch Love Island and leave us alone. But I'm not lying to you because I don't bring you the news. We're talking about the news, and I tell you what I'm not lying to you about. When I tell you something, it will probably happen. Ronaldo, injured for the last game of the season, before anybody else knew. Sterling to Chelsea, before anybody else knew. Nunez, Liverpool want him before anyone else knew. So, look, believe me, don't believe me, but I don't lie. And also, what we're talking about here, it's got nothing to do with me. I'm not the CEO, I'm not the director of football, I'm not the manager, and I'm certainly not the media people who are putting these stories out. So, you know, if you don't like it, stop ruining it for everybody else. Would rather Sangari for the same price instead of RAUM. Another midfielder on top of De Jong is more needed than a left back, says Jordan. I agree, Shaw should be left back, left at home, says Rash. He's got no footballing IQ and had half a good season. Mate, I love that though, because I completely disagree with you on that, but at least you're putting your opinion out there and you're putting a bit of comedy on there. I don't mind it if people don't rate Luke Shaw. You know I'm not going to tell you to like Luke Shaw just because I do, because that's not the way it should be. I know a lot of you don't like Rashford. I still think, I mean, I can't stand the PR and the brand and everything like that Rashford has become. But as a footballer, I still think there's a player there. And I know a lot of you disagree with me, but I do. George Taylor says, the fact that we are only targeting current and former Ajax players just shows how limited and dim-witted our scouting and recruitment teams are. Why do you think Ajax have so many talented players in their team, says George Taylor? Because they recruit and scout very well, which is great. So look, David RAUM, apparently Manchester United are going to put a bid in for him. It doesn't make any sense to me, if I'm absolutely honest. It's a lot of money, 30 million quid, when our best fullback is actually Luke Shaw. I think we should be looking at right back before we look at left back, but we should be looking at centre back, two midfielders and attackers before we're looking at fullbacks anyway. So look, I don't know how much money we've got to spend, but let's just see if anything happens with this David RAUM. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but what I would say is very good player in the Bundesliga, very, very good attacking left back, and 24, probably the right sort of profile. So let's see, it might happen. As I said, what I will say, and I will keep saying this, there's opinion and there's reality. My opinion is I don't think it's the right deal to do because I think we need to spend money elsewhere. But I don't know what the budget is and I don't know what conversations are going on at United. In reality, if Erik ten Hag walks into that club and said, I don't care how much money you've got, get me David RAUM, Eriksen and De Jong and anything else is a bonus, then you get those players. You might think, bloody hell, we need a centre-back and a defensive-minded midfielder. But if he doesn't want it, this is the manager we've all said to go and get. And we must back that. We must back this manager in the first year. But it doesn't mean we have to agree, you know, in a hypothetical community conversation about what's being done. Because if that's the case, may as well just all pack up and go home and be sheep. The 11 million the Glazers are taking out is the difference in the De Jong deal. We could have sealed that deal and moved on to other targets, says Paul. Would you rather have the Glazers, rich but ignores football, or owners who are poor but build the club intelligently, says Tyler Wilson. I mean, it's a hypothetical I don't need to answer, Tyler, although I will answer it, because Manchester United, we would never have poor owners. I think what you're asking is, would you rather have a football club that's got rich owners who are greedy or poor owners who are responsible? Which in a hypothetical is a good question. But for Manchester United, it's an irrelevance because we are a rich football club who got took over by greedy people who put us into debt. We were rich before the Glazers came in, and we would be richer without the Glazers. So that's my issue with that. In 2022, I told you I'm ignoring Liverpool and uni and choosing Southampton uni just because of club loyalty. I'm here with my postgraduate degree and a job in London. Super chat from my first salary, says Manmeet. Congratulations, Manmeet, and well done. You took the moral path and you succeeded. So well done, and thank you very much for that update from you there. Let's bring it back to De Jong then. We've spoken about David RAUM and we're talking about bids going in. So let's see if a David RAUM bid goes in. I've got to say, it could well end up being Vitinho where nothing actually happens. If we buy a left back, then it will be Malacia, I think, but maybe it's a sign that Telles is leaving, maybe, says Lars. Well, we're going to be talking about people going in a minute because there's some ridiculous updates coming in tonight about people wanting second chances. I mean, we're Manchester United. We're Manchester United. We're not a charity. And therefore, why are all these players getting six-packs on their summer holidays and wanting a second chance? What about last season, lads? What do you think that 38-game season was that you basically shat on your shirt was all about? Why am I interested in your six-pack? Why am I interested in you having a second chance? You should have one chance at Manchester United. You blew it. You blew it. Get your trainers back on and jog on. I don't want second chances at Manchester United. They've had their chance. Kick them out. Tyler Wilson, welcome to the United Stand Members Club. And the reason they should be kicked out, Tyler, and I know you didn't ask the question, the reason they should be kicked out is because they've had their chance. There's players queuing up to come to our football club and be given a chance. Screw you. If you've shown you're not reliable once, you will not be reliable again. Get out. Get out. Would love to sit down and have a pint with you, bud. You're a legend. Keep up the good work, says Luke. I'm sure we can arrange it at some time. Definitely. Love to do that. Love to do that. Right. So, Frankie de Jong, very, very quick update. Don't want to dwell on this too much because there's so, we're all bored of it. But a couple of updates coming in from Spain that I thought I would share with you. Apparently, one of the big issues here, remember 15 million? Somebody said today that 15 million is the difference between what Manchester United want to pay and what Barcelona want us to pay. So I've done the maths on this. It's quite easy. We want to pay 80 million euros as the full package. They want 100 million euros as the full package. 100 million euros is 85 million pounds, whereas 80 million euros is about 68 million pounds. So it's very, very clear, and it's coming out from Spain as well, that Barcelona are holding out for a 100 million euro package for Frankie de Jong. So this will include the add-ons as well. 100 million euros. Yeah, you saw my face. It's like, yeah, it's a lot of money. That is a lot of money to spend on one player, which is my issue with this deal anyway. It's my only issue. I mean, I think Frankie de Jong's a fantastic player. I think we need a top-class midfielder. But 100 million euros, whether it's add-ons or not, that's a lot of money, 85 million quid. So I think there's probably some truth in this. Do I think this deal will get done this week? Look, something's going to happen this week because United, I know it sounds really bitchy and, however you want to call it, but There is no way this club is letting this get to Friday. £11 million hitting the Glazers' bank account in dividends, and we've bought nobody. That can't happen. I don't know whether United think it can happen, but that can't happen. Like, it literally cannot happen. You won't get patience after Friday if we haven't done anything and you drop 11 million quid into the Glazers' pocket. It just won't happen. So something will happen this week. But, I mean, Man United have been working on this deal for a very long time. If they're just going to pay 100 million euros because they need some positivity before the Glazers get their dividends, then what have they been doing for 8 weeks? I think the whole point of this last 8-9 weeks negotiating over De Jong is that Man United are meant to be getting to a point where they get a deal where everyone goes, it was well worth the wait. Are we getting to a point now where maybe Barcelona are calling our bluff and they're just we're going to end up paying what we could have paid 4 or 5 weeks ago? So look, there's no discount on 100 million euros. If we pay 100 million euros as the full package, which is basically what Liverpool played for Darwin Núñez, by the way, because they paid 80 million euros plus 20, haven't they? So I think it's going to be very interesting. I don't know, and I don't think anybody knows, certainly not people I've messaged, know what this deal's going to actually come down to. But if Barcelona want 100 million euros and we want to pay 80 million euros, that's the £15 million gap. Now, many of you will say for £15 million, let's just get the deal done. But £15 million is almost 50% of another signing if they're 30 million quid. So I don't know. I don't know how it's going to work. I don't see why they would get a second chance when most of these players were crap under the other 2 or 3 managers, says Talai. I agree with you. And also, Joshua Bellwater says, do you think we could see other business done relatively quickly once De Jong is signed? I hope so, Joshua Bellwater. I think we all know that De Jong is like a dam blocking the water, and as soon as De Jong opens up that dam and signs for us, we should rush forward and get everything else. But that might not happen. Hope you're well. What news are you expecting this week on De Jong? Says Said. I mean, you know what? I will say this. I think we'll progress the De Jong deal this week, and I think to be honest with you, we're almost at the point where I think it will get progressed in the next 48 hours, because I think something will happen before Thursday night. Friday, the Glazers are getting 11 million quid, so I think something happens this week. But on the other hand, maybe it won't be De Jong. Maybe they'll have to quickly go and get somebody else just to give something. I don't know. So yeah, look. All I'm going to say is, if we end up spending 100 million euros on Frankie De Jong, what have we spent 8 weeks doing? You know, that's the question, isn't it? If we spend 100 million euros on him, what have we been doing for 8 or 9 weeks? Because that's obviously the price they've always wanted. That the only positive that comes out of this De Jong deal is, 1, getting him, and 2, getting him at a reasonable price. And United are under a bit of pressure now. We have 3 left backs already. I'd say 2 will leave. Shaw wants to be a backup. I think Telles might stay. We're only paying this for De Jong because Eriksen is free, says Sean Turner. Well, before we move on, I will just say this, and I want it to, I want to know what everyone else thinks, really, but I do want to say this, because you have to be honest. I was on Talk Sport this afternoon, and they put a clip up on their socials, and people just didn't listen to the whole clip. Basically, at the start of the clip, I said, Van Gaal bought Di Maria for a lot of money. He flopped. Pogba bought Jose brought Pogba for a lot of money and Lukaku for a lot of money, and they didn't really work out. Ollie bought Maguire and didn't work out, and now Ten Hag is buying Frankie De Jong. What I said is, I'm just hoping that Erik Ten Hag is going to break the mould, because he's a very tactical coach, and that De Jong is going to massively improve us and be worth the money. I think that's what we're all hoping for, and I'm willing to be positive about that. I think we all are. But I'm going to also say, and I'm going to say it about every transfer, not every transfer is a guarantee. And if I have any fear about De Jong, it's that he's not really engaged in coming to the club. He'd like to stay at Barcelona. I mean, that is a bit of a worry. I know I was talking a few weeks ago about persuading players, but our persuasion tactic is basically Barcelona want to sell you. Also, it is a huge amount of money on one player, and I personally think, as a United fan, if you'd said to me in the middle of April, Do you think you need to spend £80 million on one player? I would have said no, God no. We definitely don't need to do that. We need to go and buy a whole new team. So I'm going to be loyal to that opinion, even though I want to be loyal to Erik ten Hag about Frankie de Jong. And I am loyal to him, but I'm not going to forget that I don't actually agree that we should be spending a huge amount of money on one player. And I'm hoping that because Erik ten Hag wants to, and quite rightly we are going to because he wants to, this is a masterstroke. But pardon me for being a little bit sceptical, and I think Ten Hag would be fine about it because I've seen Louis van Gaal do this, Jose do this, and Ollie do this, and it's failed spectacularly. Maybe we should just go for Bernardo Silva instead. Would never happen, Robbo, unfortunately. How many times you said De Jong in the last 2 weeks? Answers on a postcard, says Liam. Probably quite a lot. Hi, Mark. Honestly think United are stalling the De Jong transfer for the new shirt sales and to cover up the dividends, says Dasbo. Well, if they're covering it up for the dividends, they've got to announce it this week. And maybe you're going to be right about that. Maybe you will. Can I just say as well, we've got nearly 20,000 people watching. I'm sure not all of you have subscribed, and we're only a few hundred away from 360,000, as you can see in the top corner. So please do subscribe to the channel, bottom right-hand corner. You'll want to be doing that anyway, because when we actually do sign a player, it probably won't be at 10 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock or 8 o'clock. So we will go live when it happens, and if you're subscribed, you've got the notifications on, hopefully, and then you'll get your notification. Okay, so that's where we are with the RAUM and De Jong bids. The next thing I want to talk to you about is a little bit of news coming in, and I think this was really the crux of what I wanted the show to be about anyway. So I'm just going to go through some comments from Sky Sports, and this is what has been said, and we'll just go through each of them, because I think some of them you'll agree with them and some of you will be quite annoyed with. So Sky Sports chef actually says, funds have been the issue, but funds have never been the issue, but now that the emphasis is on getting the right player for the right price. Christian Eriksen is one they're interested in with contact already made, and there is a feeling that a deal is there to be done. Funds have never been an issue. Well, that's wrong straight away. Funds have been an issue. We've had summers where funds have been an issue. We didn't get a CDM last year, so let's not pretend we've got unlimited funds for a start. I mean, there's spin and there's bullshit and there's truth, and funds have always been an issue at United. We've spent a lot of money. We have spent a lot of money, but did we get a CDM last year when we needed one? No, because the money was spent on the positions that Solskjaer wanted, Ronaldo, Sancho, Varane, and the midfield was neglected. If funds were not an issue, we would have got a midfielder as well, because as we know, there were midfielders available. Ruben Neves was available. Have a feeling we will lock in Eriksen before Frankie de Jong, says Akshay, maybe. So that's the first thing I wanted to sort of hit on. The second thing, and I completely disagree with this as well, Manchester United are interested in Lisandro Martinez, but it is not a priority position because of the number of central defenders United have on their books at the moment. You can see there's a bit of a theme building here. Klopp wanted Brandt over Salah. Edwards said no. Listening to a manager for transfers isn't always right. A competent director of football necessary, says Rash. So this contradicts everything we know. Man United want Lisandro Martinez, but it's not a priority position because of the number of centre-backs we've got. So we don't need to buy a centre-back because we've got Bailly, Jones, Maguire, Lindelof, Varane, only one of which can play the way Ajax play. And it's not a priority position, despite the fact that 4 weeks ago, we thought we'd signed Timber. I don't know who's briefing these people, but they're completely wrong. Why would we have spent time speaking to Timber's representatives in London a month ago if he wasn't one of the priority positions? Centre-back has always been a priority. Whether it's Timber, Torres or Martinez now, centre-back is a priority. We're not looking at a centre-back because we've got too many centre-backs that were bought by other managers who can't play the Ten Hag way. So, look, we might not buy a centre-back because we can't sell some of the shit that we've got, but it is a priority position because Ten Hag wants people who can play football the way he wants to play. And the fact is, very few of the centre-backs we've got can actually play the way that Ten Hag's centre-backs need to play. They need to be able to cover the flanks, they need to be able to play a high line, and they need to be able to dictate the play. And we actually haven't, there's only one player who can do that, and that's Varane. Bailly can cover the flanks and he's quick, but he can't play out from the back. Maguire can, and Lindelof can play out from the back to a certain extent, but they can't play a high line and they can't play to the flanks. So, we do need to buy a centre-back. 11 million out and Eriksen on a free come Friday, says Wayne Finnegan. I don't think that washes, Wayne. I don't think that's enough. I really don't think that's enough. What happened to the potential signing of Nkunku, says Jack? Not for sale. Not for sale, unfortunately. I don't know. Enzo Fernandez is a player I would love to go for, Eric. I really think it's a player that we could go for. But, you know, I think Luca said we're starting from scratch again, says Manmeet. Yeah, I spoke about that this afternoon. But Tyrone says, Mark, you think you know so much, but really you have no idea. Tyrone, why are you even here? Like, why are you watching this show at 8:30? It's on YouTube. You've got 100 channels on the TV. There's loads of stuff you can watch on the internet. And you're watching me. So burn, baby, burn. Because you're listening to me and yet you're trying to say something like that. You know, I find it hilarious. Just go and get a life. Bay's good on the ball. Oh, my God. Gullard, you need to get out a little bit more. Bay's good on the ball. He is some things, but he ain't good on the ball, mate. So we will be looking at a centre-back. I completely disagree with that. I think Manchester United are definitely looking at a centre-back. It's very, very clear that it's a priority. But these sort of things worry me because people will be watching Sky and listening to that, and it contradicts everything we know from many other credible sources who've been saying for weeks and months that Manchester United are looking at a centre-back. So, you know, this is what I mean about confusion. I don't want to be doing a show saying transfer confusion and, you know, Ten Hag's fury or whatever like that. But it is very frustrating and it is very confusing for the fan base to be told one thing and then contradicted all the time. Oh, we're after RAUM. No, we're after Malacia. We're after Martinez. No, we're not. We're after Vitinho. It's like, we will be lied to. Of course we will. That's what happens. But just going back to that very good point before that I'd forgotten. Yes, we may well sign Eriksen towards the end of the week and take the dividends out on Friday. But I don't think that's enough. I don't think that is going to make Man United fans happy on Friday when the Glazers take £11 million out and we've got Christian Eriksen on a free. That's massively symbolic. Free transfer, 11 million in our pocket. To me, that's just bad. That's just as bad as doing no business and taking £11 million because we've just cleared about £35 million a year in wages from people walking out the door for nothing. I don't think you can announce Eriksen on Thursday and then take £11 million on dividends. I think they've got to do something where they spend money by Friday. So it'd be very interesting to see what happens with that. Didn't Arnold say that the club has enough for the targets Ten Hag wants?Maybe it's partly Ten Hag thinking the team is good enough, says Stephen. I don't know, and we're going to talk about this in a minute, Stephen. I don't know how any player at Manchester United can be given a second chance or told to fight for their place when Erik Ten Hag hasn't trained them once. It makes no sense to me. Mark, do you think Mengi could be coached the right way under Ten Hag? He has so much potential and a little taller than Timber, says Mandy. I don't know, Mandy. I mean, these things are possible. We don't know unless they happen. I don't know why that's not working there. Let's see if we can get it up on the screen because I want to show you. Okay, it's gone. Is it going to come back? It's going to come back. So Man United, this is interesting. This was from Jonathan Schrager. Manchester United have informed Brandon Williams he can leave if a club comes in for him because they cannot guarantee him first team football. However, they would like him to stay and vie for his place. Now, if that's true, is this not the same old Manchester United? We'd like to sell you, but we'd like you to stay. And ultimately, you're probably not good enough, but we'd like you to stay. Is this not just the usual, let's keep the deadwood to keep the squad up and then we don't have to sell someone to buy someone? To me, that sort of thing is terrifying if true. Because it makes absolutely no sense. Brandon Williams will never be worth as much money as he is now, in my opinion. I would say after that Norwich loan, he's got to be worth 15 million quid. Do you think he'll be worth 15 million quid in a year's time? He'll become a terminal squad member. And what I mean by that is, like, it means your career will basically end at Manchester United. Like, not that they'll be gone in a year, but if you look at someone like, I mean, John O'Shea wasn't really a terminal squad member. He became a very important squad member. There's nothing wrong with that. But what I mean is, like, the value of them becomes terminal. It dies because they just become this squad player that never plays, and then eventually they end up just going for no money anyway. So his value is probably at its biggest point now at 15 million quid. Now, he might prove us all wrong and become a Man United legend. I'd be very surprised because he's playing on the wrong flank for a start. He's playing as a right-footed left-back. But that sort of mixed message is wrong. Like, we're never ruthless. We're never ruthless. And I would be saying to Brandon Williams, you're not good enough. Well, you don't need to say it like that. You're not going to get a first-team opportunity. You probably won't even be on the bench. We want to sell you. Go and get your agent to get you a move. But saying you're not good enough for the first team, but we want you to stay and fight for your fight for your place. I mean, what sort of it doesn't make any sense, and it does worry me a little bit when we're talking about sales. We've just spent a bit of time talking about purchases, but when we're talking about actual sales, where is the ruthlessness and squad planning? Like, Brandon Williams is a player you could get £15 million for, and I don't think you'd ever regret selling him. I really don't think you would ever regret selling him, because I don't think he'll ever play top 4 first team football. I hope he proves us wrong, but I don't. I think he'll end up playing mid-table Premier League football, and therefore we shouldn't regret that. We need to free up some funds. We need to free up some spaces in the squad. He should be moved on. And what we're actually doing is saying, we'd love you to come back on pre-season tour and try again. Is that not worrying to you? Because it's worrying to me, because that suggests, again, not many players are going to be signed, and it's really about getting the best out of what you've got again. And they're all going to be team photos in Australia again with their cut tops there and their guns out. You know, I don't get this. This is not a rebuild. This is not a new start if you're polishing the same players that you had before. This is going to be our summer. Frankie de Jong, Eriksen, Anthony, Martinez, Malacia, and that's 8 out of 10 unless Martinez is a CDM, says Sherm. But it goes on. It goes on. It's not just about that. It's not just about that at all. We go on back to Sky, who said Aaron Wan-Bissaka is prepared to fight for his place at Manchester United but wants regular first-team football. If that's not possible, then there's a consideration that he could move and United would consider suitable offers. But again, this is wrong. I've got no problem with Brandon Williams or Aaron Wan-Bissaka or Eric Bailly wanting to fight for their place, but somebody should be taking them aside and saying, whoa, don't bother putting your training kit on, get on the phone to your agent and get a move. Whether it's a loan or a sale, that's what you're doing, because there isn't a place for you to fight for your place here. We're Manchester United. You've had your chance. We're moving on. We're bringing new players in. We're rebuilding this team. There is no second chance for you. There is no fight for your place here. You're gone. It's ruthless, I know, but you will find somewhere else. Goodbye. Why are United not doing that? Liverpool do it. Man City do it. Chelsea do it. Why are we the club that lets the player decide what they want to do? Oh, I don't want to leave. I want to fight for my place. But if I can't get my place, I might decide to go then. So we're taking them on tour, are we? We're giving them a chance. We're like a bloody charity. Where's the ruthlessness in this football club? Eric Bailly, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Brandon Williams, Axel Tuanzebe, Phil Jones, and probably 4 or 5 others should not be going on tour. They should be told, get fit, get yourself a club because your future's not at Manchester United. I know that's really harsh, but did you see last season? Because I did. Like, if we're not going to be harsh with some of these players, let's not pretend that we're being harsh on players that were walking out for free. Lingard decided to go, Pogba decided to go, Mata, Matic, Cavani decided to go. We didn't kick them out. They decided to go. Who have we kicked out this summer? Nobody. We haven't sold Dean Henderson. We're paying for him to go on loan to Forest. Go and have a good time, Dean. We'll see you in a year. Wan-Bissaka, Brandon Williams, Eric Bailly, come back and have another go. Yeah, go on, have a go. If you don't like it, you can leave. I'm like, where's this ruthlessness on removing players? It seems to me, and look, this could just be paper talk, of course it could, but it seems to me we're saying to these players, if you want to come and have a try again, you can do. And there's no accountability for last season at all. We cannot pin last season on Lingard, Cavani, Pogba, Mata and Matic. Far from it. Lingard hardly played. Mata and Matic, when they were asked, actually did okay. Cavani was injured for most of the season, and as was Paul Pogba. None of those 5 players contributed massively to a bad season for us. They hardly played. And yet they're going to be the fall guys of kicking them out of the club. Come on. You've got to start kicking some people out of the club. Come on. Hi Mark. I fear that even with de Jong and Eriksen, we don't have a commanding presence in our midfield. Haven't had one since Carrick, says Sadiq. Well, yeah, I do agree with that, but we have got a manager that's going to play in a completely different way. I do keep saying this. The way we're going to play is very different. It's very different to the way we played under Ollie and Mourinho. So maybe he thinks that he doesn't need that type of a midfielder. I'll tell him now he does. Remember, Erik ten Hag's never managed in the Premier League. He does need a destroyer in that midfield. Bissaka is not good enough and never will be. Same as Williams. United need to be ruthless, says Lewis. And look, this could be just paper talk. Of course it could. But if we don't get any evidence of it and they do end up going on tour, there was a brilliant piece. I think it was Manchester Evening News was speaking about it actually, and it's very, very true. They were saying, look, let's take for example. I'm trying to think of a player. I mean, let's use Phil Jones. We've not mentioned Phil Jones. And look, if Phil's watching, I'm using you as an example. I'm not saying this is true. If Phil Jones is not part of the future plans and United are going, oh, come on the tour and have a try. And then he comes on the tour and Erik ten Hag's like, yeah, he's definitely not going to be good enough. But he's on the tour and he's going to have his friends on tour. And therefore, any conversation he has is probably not going to be that positive, no matter how professional he wants to be. It's really important at United that under a new manager, everyone's pulling in the right direction. So what's the point in taking these players on tour that clearly aren't going to be good enough? And also, as well, can we also acknowledge the fact that this is not just about what Erik ten Hag thinks. It's not just about what the club thinks. It's also about what the fans think. And more specifically, it's about the fans in the ground and what they think. We saw, whether we agreed with it or not, we saw the way that Paul Pogba was treated last season. There are going to be players this season that probably won't be treated like Paul Pogba, that have lost the trust of this club, fans, and therefore should not be at it for their own good. So I don't see the point in taking 5 or 6 of these senior pros on tour at all. They're taking somebody else's spot, and ultimately they could be using that time to stay fit back in England and get a move. Might be early to say it, but it looks like the Glazers picked another yes man, especially if he backs their claims that United doesn't need major surgery, says Ash. We'll spend money, Ash. We'll spend money, and I don't want anybody to think that we're not going to spend money, because we will spend money. I'm absolutely convinced of that fact. What I can't be convinced about is that we're actually going to clear some of these players out. And I have to admit, I do feel a little bit concerned about the number of players that it looks like are going to be given a second chance. And I just don't agree with it. Our summer cannot be 5 players walking out the door. Oh, we got rid of 5 players. You didn't. You can't claim an assist on Paul Pogba leaving. He refused to sign the contract you put on the table. So these players walked out the door. You didn't get rid of them. We never would have got rid of them. Like, if Lingard had said, okay, I'll sign a contract, what's on offer? We'd have given him one. Because we are a business. We never would let a player walk out this door for nothing if we could keep them on a contract. We would have given Lingard a contract. We just didn't give him the contract he wanted. We would have given Pogba a contract. We just didn't give him the contract that he wanted. We have no part in them leaving apart from the fact that we didn't give them the wages they wanted. We would have kept them because they're an asset. Don't forget Rashford. I'm sick of this comment. There's a player in there. He's been crap for 2 years and we could get 50 to 60 million, says Sean. Wow, Sean, I respect you. You know, I disagree on that. I do think there's a player in there, but there's absolutely no... We're never getting rid of Rashford. Like, whether we should or we shouldn't, we're not. But look, he's a player in a different way. I think Rashford, Bruno, Maguire, McTominay, Luke Shaw, there's maybe a couple of others. They're under the microscope next season. I'd say they're very far from fan favourites. I like Luke Shaw, I like Rashford, I like Bruno. I'm not a big fan of McTominay as a footballer, and I'm not a big fan of Maguire as a footballer at the moment. I hope they can prove me wrong, but everybody's got different opinions on those 5 players. Some like Maguire, some don't like Rashford and Bruno. Like, those players divide the fan base, let's be honest. And are all 5 of them suddenly going to play well for the whole season? I think all 5 of them might play well for the first 8 games, but that's because anybody can do that. You know, you can get up at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning if I ask, if you're really determined. Some of you will be getting up at 6, but you know my point. But will you be able to do it for the next month? You won't. You'll do it 4 or 5 times, and then you'll go, well, I'll have a lie-in. So people don't think of that mentality. I absolutely guarantee you United will play some good football for the first month or so. But as we know with a lot of these players, don't ever forget the word consistency, because it's the most relevant word with this squad we've ever known. They can't be consistent. That's why they don't win trophies. They can't be consistent. So what I will give you a little prediction here. We will start the season off really well. And certain players that were crap last year, people will be going, oh, it was just the coaching. They're brilliant now. And then I guarantee you by Christmas they fall off because they can't be consistent. Anybody can be good for a couple of games. These players haven't been coached properly for years, Mark. Go and express yourself. Ain't a game plan, says Johnny. No, I agree with you, Johnny, but do you genuinely, I'll throw it back to you, do you genuinely think a bit of coaching is going to make some of these players good enough to challenge Man City and Liverpool? I actually think, Johnny, the truth is some of them will be good enough to challenge Liverpool and Chelsea and Man City, but some of them were just bought badly. We can't just, so what you're basically saying is we spent £1 billion really well, we just didn't coach them. Well, that can't be true. We actually bought some shit as well. That even if you coach them won't be good enough. So, you know, I think people like Jadon Sancho with Ten Hag will have a big season next year, but I think there's a couple of players that it's very obvious to me that we've spent a lot of money on that won't be good. 100 million for Frankie scares me, says Brandon. We do need quality and leadership in the midfield, and that's a step down that path. Still need more than him. I think a lot of people would be I was saying this afternoon to someone, Brandon. If I said to you, we're going to spend £80 million on Frankie de Jong, but we're also going to spend £30 million on Sangari or Kante, I think people would be fine. I actually think, and it's probably true for myself, in fact it is, my concern is we're spending so much money on Frankie de Jong, but he's not actually, we need two midfielders. We've always needed two midfielders. We basically want to take McFred out the team. Frankie de Jong opens up the possibility that it will be McYong or Yed. That doesn't really work, does it? Frong would have worked, or McYong. But yeah, I think if we knew we were getting de Jong and we knew we were getting a defensive-minded midfielder, I don't think anyone would moan. We all know the midfield's the problem. We all know how many midfield battles we lost last season, and I think actually the fee for de Jong isn't such a major thing if you know you're getting a defensive midfielder. And I think if you search your hearts and your heads, that's probably the main thing. It's this fear that we're spending so much money on de Jong and we won't bother buying a defensive-minded midfielder as well, which is what we all know we need. And that predates Solskjaer, really. Well, no, it doesn't. It was Solskjaer was here for 3 years, but we've needed a defensive-minded midfielder for years. We haven't got one. We've got no one's really coming through from the youth, and we don't really have someone who's part of the team. There's people who can do it. Garner can do it. Donny could do it. Fred could do it. But we don't have someone who's really good at it. We simply can't sell any of these players. For God's sake, we allowed players to run their contract and go for free rather than selling them, says YUFC. Well, you know why we can't sell them. Chris, welcome to the Members Club. And Steph says some of these players down tools last season because they weren't being picked. Can a leopard change its spots? No, and they can't all be picked either. So I really would be kicking some of them out. But you know why we can't sell them? Rory says hopefully we'll get Malacia and Tellez will go. The reason we can't get rid of them is because of the wages. If I said to you, how much is Phil Jones on? It's definitely over 70 grand a week, isn't it? Who's going to give him 70 grand a week? And he's got years left on his deal. If I said to you, how much is Eric Bailly on? Again, it's got to be over 70 grand a week. Who's going to pay him 70 grand a week? And he's just signed a new contract last year. There's a theme here, isn't there? We can't get rid of them. Wan-Bissaka, I mean, he's got to be on over 70 grand a week, and he's got to have at least a couple of years left on his contract. Who's going to pay him that? Brandon Williams, I don't know what Brandon Williams is on. I don't know what Twan Sebi's on. I would imagine you probably can move them on because they're not on massive wages. As we know, Anthony Martial, it's gone very quiet on him. Quite rightly, we can't sell Anthony Martial. He's on 250 grand a week, and he's got 2 or 3 years left on his deal. So, you know, we can't sell these players because we made bad deals to renew their contracts. Surely the main problem with trying to shift the deadwood is that they're deadwood for a reason. Who's going to buy them? Exactly, Lewis. And who can afford to buy them? Unless we pay huge amounts of money to move them on, which is what I would do. I would do that. I'd pay them off. Do you think 1 month pre-season is enough for the players to learn how to play their Ten Hag way, says Per-Erik Klassen? Well, also remember that although we're going on tour in July, I think it's July the 8th, some players probably won't join the tour until well, I'm not even talking about signings here. Some of the players will literally maybe get a day or two's training at Carrington before they get on the plane. They won't play the first couple of games because they'll have only had a few days training. So we forget about this, but I think our first game on the 12th, I forget who it is. Is it Liverpool in is it in Bangkok? We won't have many players playing in that game. I doubt Ronaldo will play. I doubt Harry Maguire will play. I doubt any of the internationals will play because they'll have only had a few days training. So it will be the players who come back next week and some of the youngsters who will play. Yeah. What do you think of Rashford and Martial flourishing next year without the Pogba and Lingard distractions, says Adam Kelly? I've said it before and I'll say it again. I personally think that Martial is worth sticking with for a year because we need a striker, and I know we wanted Darwin Núñez, but we didn't get Darwin Núñez. And what striker is available for less than 60 million quid that's better than Martial? And people will start giving me a big list, but my next point is, and I haven't got 60 million pounds for you to buy them, because I haven't. We've got 70 million going on De Jong, 40 million going on a centre-back, 50 million going on Anthony. You want another midfielder and a full-back, and then you want me to give you 60 million for a striker. Like, we don't actually have the funds for a striker. There's not really any out there. I think if you can persuade Martial to stay, remember he's coming back in training next week as well because he's not been part of the French squad. I think Martial is... I said it a few weeks ago. I think Martial is a player that you really... It's a test of man management skills for Ten Hag because he could be invaluable next season if you can get him to stay for a year. And I would say to him, look, where are you going to go, Anthony? Oh, you want to go on loan to Juventus or whatever like that? Good luck with that because they won't pay you wages, and we're not paying half your wages to go and have an adventure in Serie A or La Liga again. So if you can find someone to pay us the 30 million quid we want, and you want to take a pay cut and leave, go. Or I want to use you. I want you to be the striker that plays when Ronaldo doesn't play, which will be at least one game a week. Not asking you to commit your long-term future to United. I want you to stay here for a year, and then what will happen is if you do well next year, you'll be able to leave. That's how I'd play this situation. Criticising of players was right. A much better coaching team should have seen this coming over the last few years, says Ronald. But that's a divisive thing because, of course, we have got fans. You know this Ivan Nilsson story? You'll note that I haven't mentioned it once on the United Stand until now. You know why? Because it's the biggest load of bollocks ever. I ain't falling for another Portuguese bullshit story. Like, people genuinely thought last week we were in for Vitinha. I even talked about it. I'm not doing it again. They've had their last chance, the Portuguese press. They all got together, all the outlets. They all spoke about United and Vitinha, and it was clearly a big load of bollocks. So until they get a story that's right, I ain't listening to we're about to bid 60 million for this Portuguese league player and that Portuguese player. I just don't believe it. But with Martial, of course, he is a player like Rashford, like Bruno, like Maguire, that will divide the fan base, and that is something that probably will make it difficult for the Martial thing, and that's why it's a big challenge for Ten Hag to persuade the player and then the fans that this is the right thing to do. But what I would say as a fan is, if Eric Ten Hag said, I'm going to build my midfield around McTominay and De Jong, there's a huge part of me that's going to go, oh my God, we should have got Pochettino. But I'm going to resist that because this is the manager I wanted. He's never even managed a game yet. I've got to give him a chance. And I've always done that. I never wanted Fellaini, and I gave him a chance, and I was right. There's been other players I didn't want, and sometimes they've done okay. So it's so important that whatever Eric Ten Hag decides to do, whether you believe it's the right thing to do or not, surely the right thing to do is back this manager for as long as you can because he's brand new. And as I said, there's things that he'll do this summer that I knew I wouldn't agree with, and there'll be teams that he picks next season that I know I won't agree with. But it's too early to start saying he's crap and this, that and the other. We've got to give him a chance, and we've got to try and give him a chance for as long as possible. And if he decides that Martial's the answer, then I'm going to back him. And if he decides that Rashford's better than Sancho on the left-hand side, I'm going to back him. And if he gets proved wrong, well, he gets proved wrong. But I'll tell you what, and I'll tell you this for free. Solskjaer got a lot longer than anybody ever should have got just because he was a legend and we loved him. Like, as a coach, the warning signs were there way, way, way before anyone started turning on him. So I hope we can give Ten Hag time, because I think it could take quite a while, to be honest. Rashford is my favourite player, but if he stinks this season, I think it's time, but United would never sell him. Cliffy, we're probably going to give him a new contract. Just, when we talk about players that we should be selling, and we talk about players we should be signing, remember, the rumour is that Manchester United are working on a new contract for Rashford right now. In a summer where we should be selling players and buying players, we're apparently sitting down negotiating a new contract with a player that's been crap for 2 years. We shouldn't be doing that. But apparently we are. So, let's not pretend that just because there's a bit of positivity around United that we're not still making the same. We're never going to change everything. And we will give contracts to people that we shouldn't be giving contracts to. We gave Phil Jones a 5-year deal when he was injured. I'll never understand that one. Never in a million years. Has Jay left the United stand? No, nobody's left the United stand. If you actually watch the United stand, you'll know that we stopped doing the forums a month ago, and that everyone at the forums will be back in a month when we start playing games again. Because forums don't really work when you're talking about transfers, because it's just like, what do you think about Martial? And what do you think about Martial? And what do you think about De Jong? And it just gets a bit repetitive. So everyone's having a bit of a summer break. I like Rashford, but he's similar to Welbeck. Fergie couldn't get more out of Welbeck, and I don't think a good manager can with Rashford. Well, I'm intrigued to see Scott, because Ten Hag is a coach we're all very excited about, and we mustn't lose sight of the fact that the coaching we've had over the last 4 years has been pretty boring, and we've got a manager that plays some of the most attractive football in Europe. And I know we're frustrated about transfers and sales and some of the players that are still going to be here next year, but there is a big exciting light, and that is that Ajax and Ten Hag are one of the most exciting attacking sides in Europe over the last few years. He now manages Man United. He's not going to come to Man United and say, let's park the bus and counter-attack. He's not going to come to Manchester United and say, let's boot the ball long into the box and play this Stoke Sam Allardyce shit. Like, he's going to try and play a high line with a high press and a high possession game, which creates lots of chances. That's a really exciting thing. We mustn't lose sight of that. Whether he'll be successful or not, that's what he's going to try and do. Sancho is better on the right anyway. If you know, you know, says Lars. He's better on the right in my FIFA career mode, definitely. I look forward to having those conversations. Now is not the time, because quite rightly we're all focused on transfers because we're trying to build a team that needs building and fixing. But I'm looking forward to those conversations, next month when we start playing some games and we get closer to the start of the Premier League season, and we can see, is Sancho better off the left or the right? I do like an inverted winger. I never used to. I've evolved that opinion over the last few years, actually doing the United stand. I used to love a natural old school winger, Beckham and Giggs. That's what I grew up on. Natural right, natural left. But I know the value of an inverted winger now. If you've got fullbacks who can overlap and provide that cross for you, cutting inside on your right or your left opens up more in relation to creativity and shots. But therefore, Sancho would probably work better off the left. But we've got to put some crosses into the box. And going back to the start, David RAUM, this Bundesliga left back that we've been linked to, he's brilliant at putting crosses into the box. I mean, I don't think Luke Shaw's bad at it. We're crap on the right-hand side, and that's why I'd buy a good right back, because we are crap at putting crosses in from the right-hand side. And that's why I'd buy Anthony as well, because he's brilliant at putting crosses in from the right-hand side. It's not necessary that we sign Frankie de Jong before taking dividends. They may announce a departure as well. After all, they are Glazers, says Ansherman. Well, look, let's go back to that. £11 million is going to be taken out of the club by the Glazers on Friday. They've bought nobody this summer. We need a massive summer, and the Glazers think taking £11 million out before signing anybody is going to go down well. It's going to go down like a lead balloon. I'm absolutely convinced we're going to do something before Friday. It has to be De Jong. or another signing. It can't be a free transfer. I think Eriksen's a good signing, but you can't get a free transfer in and say, oh, we've took 11 million. It's symbolic. Free transfer, 11 million, cash back. Like, I can't see that being the case. So I think that I think something will happen before Friday, because it has to happen. Yeah, it has to happen. Are there fundamental gaps in Rashford's game that would be difficult to develop? Is it worth the time and effort, says Stephen? Well, they're going to put the time and the effort in. I mean, I'd love to have a conversation over a drink about Rashford and his game, because I like Rashford, but I've been saying it for a long time. The fundamental issues with Rashford's game are, and there's some basic things that he can improve on. Headers, he closes his eyes on crosses. When he gets the ball, he puts his head down and runs at people and doesn't get his head up enough. He holds on to the ball for too long. And his creativity is really poor. His crossing's not particularly good. And effectively, he plays for himself. He plays quite a selfish game. He gets the ball, he tries to get a shot off or skip past too many players. Can you change that? Well, look, football today and over the last 30 years is full of inconsistent players who are wingers. He may never lose his inconsistency. On the other hand, the right coach might be able to get him to look in the mirror and realise that his game is falling apart because of his own decision making. And they might be able to make him... I said it last season with Rashford. I would have simplified his game. I would have said... No, if I was Rashford, I would have simplified my game. I would have basically got the ball and I would have tried to get rid of it as quick as I can. In the sense that I'd be looking to get the ball, play it into the feet of Bruno and make a run. Because if Bruno plays me back in, I'm through one-on-one, I've got some space, I've got the right to have a shot. Simplify your game. Stop running at people. Stop trying to beat people. Like, if the opportunity's there to put a cross in, put the cross in. Don't do the little step over. Don't do the little drag back. Whip the cross in. If you've got space to put a cross in, put a cross in. If you get the ball and you're under pressure, find a pass and make a move. Like, just simplify your game. Because I think we all know, because we've seen it with Rashford, he has got the ability to skip past a player and score a goal. He has got the ability to cut inside and whack it in from 30 yards. But what he hasn't got the ability to do is play a simple pass and make a good run. What he hasn't got to do, the ability to do, is when he receives the ball in space, is whip the cross in early for Ronaldo. He will always have the ability to shoot, and he will always have the ability to skip past the player. And if he simplifies his game and starts putting the cross in the box, playing the pass and making the run, and that starts to make him a better player, then he can start bringing back in every now and again the shots from 30 yards or the skip past the player. But at the moment, it's too one-dimensional, and he's definitely been figured out by opposition defenders, because they know when Rashford gets the ball, he's going to run at you, so let's double up at him, or he's going to cut inside and shoot, so let's block the angles. And, you know, there's been plenty of players in history that are brilliant players, and then they get figured out, and they just become inconsistent players. The greats, the Ronaldos, the Messis, you can't figure them out because they've got so many strings to their bow. And if they get figured out, they'll work on something else. That's what great players do. They adapt to people, because I tell you what, if you make it to be a professional footballer and you've got the best trick in the world and you're the quickest player on the pitch, that'll work for season 1. But by season 3 and 4, people will have figured it out. They'll know what runs you make, they'll know what your skill move is, and they'll figure you out. And Rashford needs to adapt his game. He needs to have a repertoire of things. Now, the problem with that is not every footballer can do it. I've always said about Rashford, when he plays naturally, he's unstoppable. But is he a player that doesn't think about what he's doing? He just gets his head down and does it. Or is he a thinker? Because if he's a thinker, then when he was receiving the ball, he should have 4 or 5 options, and it's about picking the right option for that moment. That's what he needs to do. Can he get into his head? Can he get into his head, Erik ten Hag? We will see. I do think it's worth giving it another year, though. I do think it's worth giving it another year. I think it's worth giving it another year for a lot of players, but not for the Deadwood. When the Glazers take out dividends, does that mean straight to their pocket, or is that spread out to anyone who owns stocks? I think it all goes to the Glazers, Jason. It's the Glazer family dividends, yeah. Anyway, look, thanks everyone for watching. Fantastic show again tonight. Really enjoyed it. We've literally just lost 1,000 people at 9 o'clock. You Love Island bitches. I love the fact that at 9 o'clock when Love Island's on, we lose 1,000 viewers. It just shows you how diverse an appeal like Love Island has. You lot will be going to work tomorrow. I don't watch that shit. I don't watch that shit. And you're watching it. You are watching it. Anyway, look, hey, I watch Made in Chelsea. So, you know, we all have stuff that we watch. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care. Please do subscribe because we're getting close to 360,000. I'll be back in the morning for the morning show, of course. But of course, we are in that world now where maybe something breaks at 11 o'clock and we go live. I really hope that does happen soon. So please subscribe. Make sure you click the bell to get all your notifications. Take care, everyone. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Really appreciate it. We will get some positive, firm story soon, I'm sure. And I'll speak to you all in a bit. Thanks for watching.